Collision on 45th Street ramp off of I-94 happening just after 5 p.m. yesterday. The State Patrol says 22-year-old Hefty Zamoto rear-ended the semi, then fled on foot. Witnesses helped officers locate the man. Troopers say he was combative and resisted arrest, and he's facing charges of DUI refusal, leaving the scene of a crash, and resisting. He also had multiple felony warrants out for his arrest. No one was hurt in the crash. Fargo police rescuing a woman from a pedestrian bridge above I-29 yesterday afternoon. Traffic near the 32nd Avenue Bridge was rerouted during the incident. The woman had been suffering from a mental health crisis. Police, along with help from the woman's friends, were able to safely remove her from the bridge. A Dan man being sentenced to 3 months probation for crimes involving his ex-girlfriends. Jesus Gibley is accused of threatening to kill one of his former girlfriends and setting another ex-girlfriend's car on fire. He was charged with endangering by fire or explosion, violating restraining orders, and terrorizing. And an annual water quality report shows elevated lead levels in Dickinson's water supply. The study uses last year's data and found that lead was the only contaminant identified as being above safe limits. Lead can cause health problems in children and pregnant people. Residents are advised to only use cold tap water for cooking and drinking, and to flush the tap for at least 30 seconds before each use. I'm Ty Schoenert with WDAY and WDAYRadioNow.com. First with the news when you need to know.
From ABC News, I'm Sherry Preston. Haze and smoke covering the Northeast for another day.
Yesterday, New Yorkers saw and smelled something that has never impacted us on this scale before.
New York Mayor Eric Adams says it's just as bad today. The air quality conditions caused by hundreds of wildfires that are burning in Canada. ABC News Chief Medical Correspondent Dr. Jennifer Ashton on precautions she says everyone should take, not just those vulnerable to asthma and other breathing conditions.
Reduce or avoid going outdoors, really, unless it's necessary, because these fine particulate matter particles can get into the eyes and lungs, causing symptoms like burning eyes, runny nose. It can even precipitate bronchitis. And obviously, if you have underlying cardiovascular or respiratory conditions, you are most at risk.
The worst of the haze expected to ease up by this weekend. A 19-year-old arraigned in Richmond, Virginia this morning. Amari Pollard is charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder for the shooting outside a high school graduation on Tuesday. Police Chief Rick Edwards says of Pollard and the 18-year-old recent graduate who was killed.
They knew each other and had an ongoing dispute. That's what we know at this time.
Pollard being held without bond. Another Republican enters the race for the White House. ABC's Andy Field has more on Mike Pence's announcement this morning.
Former Vice President's White House campaign ad is packed with heartland images and references to Mr. Pence's Christian faith.
God is not done with America yet, and together we can bring this country back.
Without mentioning Donald Trump's name, Mr. Pence's ad tells voters the country needs different leadership, someone who will, quote, appeal to the better angels of our nature. Andy Field, ABC News, Washington.
North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum also running. Pope Francis still in a Rome hospital. He's undergoing intense intestinal surgery and is expected to remain there, recovering for several days. You're listening to ABC News.
Here at the Almond Joy Factory, where tropical vibes abound, we use soft, fresh-tasting coconut.
The crunchiest almonds and delicious chocolate candy.
Ah, but do you know what our most important ingredient is? Sometimes you feel like a nut.
Sometimes you don't.
Almond Joy's got nuts and something even way better than that. Yes, Almond Joy is made with almonds and joy.
Yeah, I'm so stressed. Our business is growing. We've got people all over now.
Ooma.
What is that? Meditation?
I'm recommending the Ooma cloud phone system with auto attendant and more than 50 features.
Ooma?
Yep, switching to Ooma is a cinch. Just $24.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Ooma.
Now you're feeling it. Find small business calm at ooma.com/radio. That's OOMA.com/radio.
Fishing, grilling, the lakes, and a whole lot more places to go and things to do. Great Harvest Bread knows you have a lot going on, so every day they bake delicious food that you can take on the go.
Well, like cinnamon chip and oatberry muffins, different varieties made fresh every day, caramel pull-aparts, oatmeal chocolate chip cookies, and order fresh-made buns for burgers, brats, and dogs, along with the fresh-made pizza dough for the grill.
Great Harvest Bread Company, delicious on-the-go convenience, open 6 to 6 weekdays and 6 to 2 on Saturdays. University Drive, South Fargo.
Pucklet Chevrolet Buick GMC in Valley City makes it easy to find your next Chevrolet Buick GMC or pre-owned vehicle by offering a great selection at our best prices possible.
Decision 2024 is still more than a year away, but today in Fargo, North Dakota, it's Decision 2023 for Doug Burgum, and it appears that decision has now been made. The 33rd governor of the state of North Dakota will announce in just minutes that he hopes to become the 47th president of the United States. Hi, everybody. Steve Hallstrom here, your host for today's coverage of this historic day on WZFG, The Flag in Fargo, WDAY Radio in Fargo, and KTGO, The Flag in Tioga. Yes, a farm kid from Cass County is running for president. The news has technically been announced already. Multiple outlets, including our own newsroom, are reporting that Burgum is running. A video from Team Burgum was released earlier this week, all but making it official. And the Wall Street Journal earlier this morning posted a letter from Burgum outlining his case for the presidency. Doug Burgum is 66 years old and is in his second term as governor. Prior to that, he had no political career. He's got a net worth of approximately $1.5 billion and has arguably the most successful business resume among current U.S. office holders today. Before setting his sights on Joe Biden, he will have to win the Republican nomination, which will be a Herculean task. Former President Donald Trump is the heavy favorite right now, with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis a strong number 2 in the polls. By the end of today, there will be 10 candidates for the Republican nomination. Today's announcement will be made at the Sanctuary Event Center in Fargo, but people all across the state of North Dakota and really around the world are listening. Scott Hennon and Ty Schonert are live at the Sanctuary Event Center this morning, and we kick off our team coverage with Scott, who's standing by with a special guest. Scotty, what does the scene look like there?
Well, the scene is a bit chaotic, and so much so our scheduled guest has actually not made it up to the balcony where we are with the rest of the media and a few VIPs. Some legislators taking their seats up here, so it's a great spot to come on down and take this event in. On the floor is a whole lot of VIPs. I see former Mayor Bruce Furness down there. I see Dwayne Espegard. I see former Governor Jack Dalrymple, former Governor Ed Schaefer. So there's a pretty good contingent down on the floor already. I'd say pretty much full behind, where the stage will be. There's some risers. This is a made-for-TV event, as it always is. These presidential announcements are designed to reach as many people, and obviously the networks have agreed to take this. CNN is here, Fox News is here, so we expect there'll be cable coverage of the event. So I'll throw it back to you and let you know when we have our guest, which should be just a couple minutes away anyway.
All right, that sounds good, Scott. Thank you very much. Keep us posted. The fun of live events, no question about it, certainly showing today in downtown Fargo at Sanctuary Events Center. Well, let's take a look at the field of candidates that we have here. Doug Burgum, as we mentioned, will announce in just a few minutes that he is running for president. But before he ever gets to tangle with a current president and Joe Biden, he will have to make his way through a very crowded primary field. And as you might remember, 4 years ago, there were 17 candidates that began that process. And of course, after the first 2 or 3 states, some figure that the chances are not in their favor and they bow out of the process. But it was a very crowded stage. And if you remember right, there was a lot of jockeying for those positions on the stage. And people were trying to raise money. People were trying to get donors so that they could mount the sort of necessary credentials that they would need to be on that stage. Will we have that same sort of horse race? Kind of like if you look at the starting gate at Churchill Downs for the Kentucky Derby, the first race of the Triple Crown, there's 20 horses or so. And by the time you get to the Belmont Stakes, it is more like 7 or 8 sometimes. So we will see what happens. But what does the crew and what does the field look like? Obviously, former President Donald Trump will be the toughest front runner. He is a clear favorite at this point. His strongest challenger is Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who just won re-election in Florida. And then there are 7 others who trail considerably in the polls. And we will handicap that race a little bit more as we go along and check in on some website and some polling averages that have come out today to get a look at the field. But we're going to send it back downtown right now to Sanctuary Event Center, where Scott Hennon is now joined by a special guest as he and the rest of us look ahead to what promises to be a very interesting and historic day in North Dakota. Never before have we had one of our own run for president, but it will start today. Scotty?
Rich Karlgaard is here. Rich is the publisher of Forbes magazine, wrote a piece, extensive piece about Doug Burgum's success in the private sector, and predicted that he would run, and by golly, he's running. Rich, how are you?
Good to be here with you in Fargo, Scott. What an amazing day for the state of North Dakota.
Yeah, it really is, and I think everybody universally says that. I would hope even Democrats say that about a Republican governor running for president, because it's not every day that happens in North Dakota. It may have never happened before, so it's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think Doug has a better chance than everybody thinks, particularly the Washington media establishment. When I think about what this country needs and who can best serve that, you think about Doug is world-class on 4 fronts. He understands the energy economy better than any of the other candidates from both parties. That is, to me, the single most important thing to get America back to 3 to 4% growth. He understands the digital economy, obviously, both as an entrepreneur at Great Plains, as an investor at Success Factors and Atlassian and other places. He understands the entrepreneurial economy and what it takes to motivate the energies of entrepreneurs. And he understands the investment economy as a hugely successful investor. These are the 4 things that if you put them all together, America can get back to 3 to 4% non-inflationary growth. And if we do that, I will make another prediction. We will stop being at each other's throats the way we are now. Nothing solves problems between people when everybody feels they have a stake in the future.
You also, in your piece about Doug and a run for president, where you did predict that if he ran, he could win. Don't bet against him, I think, was your suggestion to everybody reading the piece. You also talked about his wealth and what he's accomplished in the private sector. And tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I think his wealth is his superpower. His wealth was self-earned. And not only did he make a lot of money in the hundreds of millions of dollars at Great Plains selling at Microsoft, but when you look at, he stayed at Microsoft for 6 or 7 years, so Microsoft stock went up. I don't know how much he held on to. He was the first outside investor in Success Factors, which sold for $3.4 billion to SAP in 2015. And then he was one of the first outside investors and chairman of the board of the Australian software company Atlassian, which if you check today has a market value of about $45 billion. Now, Doug had to resign his chairmanship in 2015, when he decided to run for governor of North Dakota for the first time. But you add it all up, not only is Doug a man of means, self-earned, but he's connected to a lot of successful people around the world. So he has a network that is unrivaled among all the other candidates running. I mean, that shocks people when you tell them that.
When did your path first cross with Governor Burgum, then Doug?
Pardon me?
When did your path first cross with Doug?
Well, after I was at Forbes, I became aware of the success that Great Plains was having, and I ran into Doug at a trade show in Phoenix in the late 1990s, and it was sort of a joy to meet him and to tell old North Dakota stories. And I just, I tell people today, I've stayed in touch with him. I wrote a chapter on him for one of my books. I've written several articles, most recently the one referred to about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And the privilege of working for Forbes is that I've met some incredibly successful, impressive folks all around the world. Doug is in my top 5 easily, and we're talking about a very short list that would include people like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs.
One of the things that some people in North Dakota talk about is being concerned about how close he is to Bill Gates, which would not be the flavor of the month for North Dakota. Bill Gates not going to play well here, obviously. What do you know of that connection?
Well, the person he was closest to actually was Steve Ballmer. Steve Ballmer, who was his classmate at Stanford Business School, it was Steve Ballmer that they initially had a discussion about Doug starting a business software unit inside of Microsoft, and it was Steve Ballmer who called him in 2001 and said, "I want to buy you." So the Gates and Ballmer partnership was obviously successful. I don't know what's happened to Bill Gates. He sees himself as a philanthropist and a do-gooder, but you can't hang that around Doug in any form. Doug is Doug and Gates is Gates.
What do you think this presidential race is going to be like? I mean, describe how this plays out.
I'm going to steal an observation that Greg Tavine made. And Greg, the super networker in the Fargo business community, the genius behind Fargo TEDx, and he said something very savvy. He said, Doug doesn't have to win the election tomorrow. What he has to do is he has to pull off about 100 upsets along the way, 40,000 donors, getting his poll numbers up, getting on the stage. There are just all kinds of milestones. But the first, when Doug launched Great Plains' first product back in the early 80s, and Doug took it to a trade show in Chicago at the McCormick Center, and he thought he was unique. And he arrives at this trade show and discovers that Great Plains' software was almost identical to 30 other companies' software. So he's seen this movie before. He saw it when he ran against Wayne Stensham for governor in the Republican primary, and the first poll showed Doug behind 69-10. He's seen this movie before. He doesn't panic. He knows what he has to do. He's the hardest working, most focused person in the race that I would bet. I don't think there's any second place, actually. So he doesn't have to win it tomorrow. He'll make progress. He's going to surprise people in this race.
Very fun to watch, isn't it?
Enormous fun to watch. So I came out to California to be here in Fargo today.
Well, by the way, welcome home.
Yeah, well, thanks. I'm a Bismarcker I was born and raised in Bismarck, and I love getting there and I love getting here. The two pillars of the state.
We love your work, and great to catch up with you, Rich. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks so much.
Good to see you. Yeah. Rich Colgard from Forbes Magazine. Steve, back to you.
Thank you very much, Scott. Appreciate that. And very interesting comments from Rich, who has had a front row seat to the career of Doug Burgum along the way, and certainly has developed a great respect. And I don't know, maybe Doug might want to think about hiring Rich as his campaign manager. I don't know that I've heard anybody quite as bullish as Rich about Doug's chances. It promises to be a very interesting day, and we are all waiting as we are now about 12 minutes away from the expected announcement where Doug Burgum will enter the race for president of the United States in 2024, first entering the cage match, if you will, of the Republican primary nomination process, which will start here momentarily. All right, we're going to take a short break here. When we come back on our special live coverage, we will hear from Ty Schonert, who's working the crowd in downtown Fargo, and we'll find out a little bit more about some local perspective from some people that you probably know. What do they think Doug Burgum's chances are? That when we continue next on The Flag and WDAY.
You can always count on Miller High Life, the champagne of beers. Always crisp, always easy drinking, always just right. The perfect balance of flavor and refreshment since 1903. Welcome to the High Life. 2019 Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Celebrate responsibly.
Attention homeowners, if you experience flood or water damage in your home, don't wait another minute. Contact Rainbow International of Fargo now for immediate water damage restoration services. They understand the urgency of the situation and are here to help 24/7. Whether it's water damage, fire, or mold, their highly trained technicians will quickly assess the damage and work tirelessly to restore your home. Call Rainbow International today at 701-412-4776.
Here we grow. In case you haven't heard, we're planting a 20-acre field of soybeans. Hi, I'm Ag Director Bridget Riedel, along with Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki and Meteorologist Justin Storm here at WDAY. We'll be updating you weekly on our 20-acre field of soybeans. At the end of the summer, our profits will be donated to the Great Plains Food Bank. Follow along with interviews, videos, and more at WDAYRadioNow.com.
Jay, you're a car guy, right?
Oh, yeah.
When your car breaks down, you want a towing company you can trust, right?
Absolutely, Kelsey. I want a local company that's experienced, provides fast, reliable service no matter the situation, and available 24/7.
Exactly. I'm Kelsey Lomsdahl, owner of Aggressive Towing and Recovery, family owned with 15 years of experience. A name you can trust. You may not need us right now, but when you do, there's only one name you need to know: Aggressive Towing and Recovery. Online at aggressivetow.com.
The defending American Association champion FM Redhawks are retiring number 33 for longtime manager Doug Simonek. See the special ceremony before the game on Friday, June 9th, when the Redhawks take on the Chicago Dogs at 7:02. Plus, stick around for fireworks after the game. That's all on Friday, June 9th at 7:02. Get your tickets now at the Redhawks ticket office by calling 235-6161 or online at fmredhawks.com. FM Redhawks Baseball. We've got the bases covered for fun.
Spring is right around the corner. Hi, Nancy Kelly here from Labor Masters. Labor Masters provides last-minute help to both businesses and homeowners in the FM and Lakes area. When you think spring cleaning, yard and garden work, call us for an extra hand. We're locally owned and even guarantee our workers. Call us at 701-566-8755 or online at labormasters.net. Labor Masters, get the quality, reliable help you need today.
Welcome back to our continuing live coverage as North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum will announce in just a few minutes that he is running for President of the United States. Steve Hallstrom here with you, your host for our coverage today. Ty Schonert is on location down at the Sanctuary Event Center as well. And Ty is standing by with State Representative Austin Schauer. Austin has had a unique perspective at the rise of Doug Burgum, first as a businessman and now as a politician. Austin Schauer, a journalist working for Forum Communications, WDAY-TV for a number of years, and most recently a member of the North Dakota House of Representatives. And he hails from District 13, member of the Republican Party out of West Fargo. And Ty had a chance to visit with Austin Schauer a little bit about today's historic announcement and some of the storylines that are rolling through Austin's mind as he prepares to take in the events of today.
Seems to be a major announcement, and it sounds like everyone here is talking about presidency.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. He's running for president. There's no question about that. He's been working on this for months. He's got some of the top people out of D.C. helping him on the organizational side. If you know anything about Doug Burgum, know this. He's extremely competitive. If he goes to something, he goes to win. And people think he might be trying to maneuver himself into a position, a cabinet position, or some type of high-level federal office. Forget it. He is in it to win. I'll guarantee it. And so the preparation behind this day has been ongoing for a long, long time. So my comment would be, do not underestimate Doug Burgum just because he's from small little North Dakota. He has the moxie, the knowledge, and I think he has the issues to really, really do well in the primary race.
He's talked about in an opinion journal on the Wall Street Journal. He's talked about how he's cut more than $1 billion in spending when he got into office. He talked about balancing the budget, unleashing energy production, and diversifying the economy. Those are the things he mentioned in the Wall Street Journal article, opinion piece. Do you think he's going to try to bring that to a national level? Like, what do you think is his main goals when he gets in office?
I think all those are true, what he said. I mean, I can't argue with any of those. I think he had some help with the legislature. But I think the number one thing that I think he brings to the national politics would be he's smart and he's civil in how he treats people. He's got great character, and he wants to make a change for the country for the better. There's so much hopelessness and negativity and the bashing each other, and even with some of his competitors, Donald Trump. That's that's not Doug Burgum. Doug Burgum is going to rise above it, and he wants the whole country to have some of the success that he's had. He's going to have a very, very positive message. And what resonates, what doesn't resonate, I don't know. We'll see. But I think hope for the future, vision for the country will resonate.
I think it's a bit unfair to say that he's polling really low right now, especially since he hasn't officially entered the race quite yet. But we do have to be honest. Donald Trump is the former candidate. He's polling really high. We have Governor Ron DeSantis also polling really high, and they're polling easily double-digit numbers, some of them in the 40%. Do you think Burgum has a chance to go up to even getting close to them, if not superseding them?
There's no doubt he has a chance, and there's no doubt he's a major underdog. There's no question about that. But I know you're too young to remember that, but who remembers Bill Clinton in 1991? I mean, sometimes in politics, just like in sports and other activities, someone that you do not expect can emerge. So it takes a lot of time, effort, energy, and money, and he's got all those. So, yes, he's way behind, no question about that. 90-some% of the country probably has never even heard of him, but they will.
So name recognition is something you talked about. I do want to kind of bring it back to North Dakota as well, because what do you think is going to be his main things he wants to share on the campaign stage, especially with the nation? He wants to bring something to the table, right? So what do you think is going to be his main messages?
Energy, agriculture, opportunity. I think those would be the top three in my thinking, and then the overall umbrella issue would be hope for the future. I know that sounds, kind of cliche in politics, and I think it is to a certain degree, but you have to recognize where we're at as a country. Look at our mental health issues that we're having. So, I think he's going to bring a ray of hope and sunshine to the country, and the guy is an amazing worker. He works like 18 to 20 hours a day. I can vouch for that. It's unbelievable, his work ethic. So, we'll see what happens.
Did he talk to you at all in regards to prior to the campaign? Did he mention this to anybody in the legislature, you think? Or?
Obviously, he should have talked to me. But no, I think it was all done, very under the... most politicians, there's a lot of activity that goes on prior to this day, like I said. So I think he's very quiet about it, and those closest to him knew what was going on.
I was speaking to Steve Holstrom about this recently, and he brought up a good point. Is he going to be governor and running for president at the same time? Do you think he's going to be stepping down if he gets closer to the national stage?
Yeah, he won't step down. He won't step down. He's got enough good people around him, and enough good agency heads, enough good state employees. He can do both. There's no question about that at all. No question.
Any final messages you want to share about yourself, your opinion on what's happening today?
As Adrian said to Rocky in the hospital bed, Rocky 2, I believe it was, correct me if I'm wrong, win.
Thank you very much, sir. Have a good day.
You too.
Good. Ty Schoner with Austin Schauer, state representative out of North Dakota, out of District 13 in West Fargo from the Sanctuary Event Center. Heading back down to the sanctuary now, Scott Hennon standing by live. We're just a couple of minutes. We're expecting Doug Burgum to make the announcement that we've been talking about all morning and really all week long. Scott, when you first heard that Doug Burgum was making plans to announce, I wonder if your reaction was kind of like mine. You and I have had this conversation before, and we said Doug Burgum is not hoping to ascend to the ranks of governor of North Dakota, and that's it. We both thought that he had plans of potentially running for president someday. Are you surprised that now is the time that he chose to do it?
No, not really. I wasn't surprised either when I heard it like you. That'd be Doug reaching for the next level. I think like Rich said, is he in the mix of ultimately getting the Republican nomination, being president? It's a long, long shot. There's no doubt about it. But he elevates his brand and is able to make some choices from there. Can't hurt. Next hurdle is really those 40,000 donors, because that's a heavy lift. You get 40,000 people to donate to you, and he'll need that to get on the stage. So then obviously 1% of polling as well. So he's got some work to do. But I like his chances just because he's going to be tenacious in this like he is in anything he takes on.
What do you think works against him, Scott? You've seen this game for years and many election cycles, and it's uncommon for somebody to come in who does not have that national brand, who can storm their way up the rankings and unseat a Goliath or two along the way, which is what he would have to do. What works against him in his efforts to do that?
I think name recognition. I mean, he's an unknown outside of North Dakota. So this is obviously got to go to Iowa now. I got to go to New Hampshire and spend a ton of time there with those early primary states and caucus states and get them to think enough of you to put you in the mix. And but he's an unknown in Iowa and New Hampshire. He's an unknown nationally. So he's really going to have to spend a lot of money to get his name out there for people to hear a little bit of the story.
I thought Rich Karlgaard said a lot of very interesting things about Doug Burgum's business acumen. And in the column that he wrote for Wall Street Journal, he said basically Doug Burgum is a guy that has as good a business resume as anybody who's an elected official in the country right now, period. Now, Donald Trump not being in office right now would certainly rival that. But Doug Burgum has that identity of being a guy who's done it, and he has a great story to tell about North Dakota, Scott.
Yeah, that piece was in Forbes magazine.
Excuse me, Forbes, yes.
It is really, really. It's 2,000 words. It's not a small article. There's a lot there, but it really was eye-opening for me. I had no idea that his personal wealth was as much as Rich pointed out it was, and also to have his analysis of being the most successful private sector person anywhere in government. And as far as the Senate and the House and the governors and even mayors. So that's pretty extraordinary, and I think just the kind of thing you want to run on. Hey, look what I've done in the private sector. Here's what I can do. But again, that story has to get out, right? People have to know that. They have to know his name because until they hear that story and get familiar with his name, it's really going to be an uphill battle to try and get in the mix in any of these primary states.
We would invite you, friend, to be part of the process today as well as you are listening to Doug Burgum's comments that we are expecting here momentarily. We would love to hear your thoughts on what you are hearing. What do you like? What do you not like? What does Doug need to say better? What does he need to say less of? What does he need to say more of? What are your thoughts? We would love to hear from you. Best way to do that today, email us, studio@wdayradionow.com, studio@wdayradionow.com, and we will read your comments at the end of Doug Burgum's remarks today. We would love to hear from you, your thoughts about this.
Sorry about that, Steve. I do have a comment that came in after the show today that was interesting that said, look, if a peanut farmer from Georgia can become president, then Doug Burgum can become president, and, of course, referring to Jimmy Carter. And that, really, you're going to hear that comparison a lot when you talk about Doug Burgum, because a peanut farmer from Georgia that literally was not known at all nationally, as the emailer says, hey, if that can happen, it's not out of the question for Governor Burgum.
Yeah, and Austin Schauer mentioned the Bill Clinton story a few minutes ago as well. Bill Clinton, the governor of Arkansas, no one had really heard that much of him on a national stage as well. And then he got on the Arsenio Hall show and started playing the saxophone. And before you knew it, he was someone who was catching some fire and had that personality. And that certainly helps in these arenas. You have to have the money as well. And as we mentioned off the top of our program, Doug's net worth somewhere around $1.5 billion. And I was visiting with Ed Schaefer earlier this week talking about this whole process, and he said that he had been visiting with Mike Huckabee not too long ago, and he said Mike told him that it takes $25 million just to get started, just to have that at the ready when you announce on day one. Because remember, it's not just making campaign commercials and traveling around making appearances. You've got to have a ground game established in these states, these first three primary states, Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina. You need to have people in place to make it happen. And so that will be part of the effort from Doug Burgum that he will be undergoing as soon as he makes this announcement today. And it sounds as though we are beginning the program, and so let's send it downtown live to Sanctuary Event Center.
My dad died when I was 14, freshman year of high school. They pulled me off our basketball team bus and told me the news. I grew up in a tiny town in North Dakota. Woke was what you did at 5 a.m. to start the day. A place where neighbors rally around you. My mom was our rock, our hero. I started a shoe shine business, worked at the grain elevator, and as a chimney sweep. Paid my way through college, then earned an MBA from Stanford. I ignored those who said North Dakota was too small, too cold, and too remote to build a world-class software company. So I literally bet the farm to help build a tiny startup into a billion-dollar company with customers in 132 countries. A kid from small-town North Dakota. That's America. Today, America's facing new challenges, and how we respond will define our future. We need new leadership for our changing economy. Innovation over regulation. Instead of shutting down American oil and gas, we should unleash energy production and start selling energy to our allies instead of buying it from our enemies. High taxes, red tape, and inflation are choking every American. As governor, we cut red tape and took North Dakota from billions in the hole to a surplus. We balanced the budget every year, and we did it all while passing the largest tax cuts in North Dakota history. States created the federal government, not the other way around. Let's shrink the federal government and return power to the states. Anger, yelling, infighting, that's not going to cut it anymore. Let's get things done. In North Dakota, we listened with respect and we talked things out. That's how we can get America back on track. It'll work. And in that tiny town where I grew up, you didn't promise things you couldn't deliver.
Doug Burgum, small town boy, turned self-made, world-class business leader. Extraordinarily successful governor, a listener and a doer. A smart guy who's achieved a lot. Doug Burgum for president. A new leader for a changing economy.
I'm Doug Burgum. I approve this message.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jenny Olson.
Here in small town USA.
Good morning! It is my distinct honor to welcome you all here today. Yes. So, take a deep breath. Look around. Soak it all in. And remember this moment, historic moment. Because by choosing to be here today, you have chosen to be a part of making history. And that is exactly what we are going to do today. Make history! 25 years ago, I was a college intern. Today, I'm one of the many business professionals running around this country that was given an opportunity to learn and grow at Great Plains Software, the very start of Doug's legacy of leadership. I distinctly remember hearing his first big keynote address in front of hundreds of partners and customers and team members. I immediately after raced back to my dorm room. I grabbed the phone receiver off the wall, still attached by a cord, punched in the numbers, and called home to my mom and dad. I proceeded to gush and bubble over with enthusiasm, telling them all about how I had just seen the most amazing leader. He was brilliant and articulate and innovative and inspiring. As a 20-year-old preoccupied college kid, inspired in a way that I had never been. And that was just the beginning of the ride. Doug was just getting started. Fast forward, when Doug was elected governor, I and many others followed him to work alongside he and Catherine in state government. And it was there working on because that's what influential and inspiring leaders do. They inspire us to come together, to follow, to get on board, to be a part of something greater. And in there, working on the Recovery Reinvented addiction platform with Catherine, that is where I got to see firsthand Catherine's humility, courage, and depth of caring that not only changes lives, but is saving lives. I believe much of what I just shared is why this room is packed with people. Wow! People with similar stories that reflect that incredible impact and the power of Doug and Catherine's leadership. We, collectively, we have witnessed, we have felt, we have experienced the power and that force for good that is their values-driven leadership. And in this moment today, I believe we have a huge opportunity to move forward. I had the privilege, working side by side with them the last few years, to not only see the very public, the big, bold leadership moves, but just as importantly, the small, the everyday, the behind-the-scenes, quiet commitment to serve, to relentlessly tackle hard problems, and always start from a place of gratitude. So, in a couple of minutes, you will get to hear from just a couple of speakers that will tell you more about the amazing leader that Doug is. Bo Bateman, a decades-long friend of Doug, will let us in on a very other side of Doug. Jeff Young, an incredible businessman in his own right, will share how and why, tell us about how Doug is so successful in business. And, of course, the most amazing First Lady in the country, Catherine Burgum. So, here's what we're going to do. Doug and Catherine are backstage. In just a moment, I want you to help me. Let them hear, let them feel how proud we are of them, how much we care, that we are absolutely, positively in this with them, and so incredibly thrilled to be here together today, sharing in this most incredible moment, making history! That's right, that is right. We are going to keep this energy rolling this morning. So, how about it? Let's get this party started! Thank you!
One of Doug's original colleagues at Great Plains Software there, Jenny Olson, and she gets the party started. A crowd of about 750 to 800 people are believed to be there at the Sanctuary Event Center.
Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to be with you on this historic day. Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Pam Modrick.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Bo Bateman.
Here in small town,
There you go. So I'm the guy who's supposed to guide you through finding out who this Doug Burgum really is, right? We grew up 56 miles apart. Both of us went to high schools in towns of less than 400 people, and we've been friends for over 40 years. When young Doug Burgum found out he was going to be the quarterback for the football team, he's well-researched, always has been, so he started looking up camps he could attend, and he could find only one in the area, and that happened to be the Benny Friedman School of Quarterbacks, which he attended, captured the handle, came back to the small town, and now a rural legend is made, and that's where Benny comes from. You know, there's a lot of cross-training in a small town, right? The firemen are doing something else. They're volunteer. The EMTs are volunteers. They're doing something else. The football team, they know they got to go paint posters in the cafeteria if they want the homecoming game to come out bright and shiny. The high school band sounds different depending on which sport is being played. When the boys basketball team is playing, well, there's a lot of musicians that are on the courts dribbling. So you got a lot of females in the band playing that national anthem. You flip it when the gals are playing basketball now, it's most of the guys up in the band, and the national anthem carries kind of a trombone-y sound to it. But you're stepping in doing different things, right, for each other. And when you get out of line in a small town, your neighbors don't call your parents. They call you, and they tell you the expectation they have for you. And you spend the rest of your life trying to achieve and earn the expectation and admiration of your hometown. In those kind of hometown situations, you strike up a lot of deep relationships, and Benny's always valued relationships. And when he got out into the big world of business, he was constantly bringing these business moguls out to North Dakota to show them the Badlands, to show them cattle ranching. And when you get him out there in that area with a lot of sky above him, you can establish an easier conversation and a deeper friendship. And that's kind of the way he works. He brings people together through conversation and trust. In fact, when he sold his company to Microsoft and they arrived with a cavalry of lawyers, he put them all on horseback, and they drove cattle across North Dakota before they sat down for the negotiation. Nice. Right? That's how you find common ground. Sometimes when rural fellows are sorting each other out, they play Can You Top This? And Benny and I went through that when we were just getting to know each other, and I thought I had him. I said, "Hey, Benny, you ever have a rodent crawl up your leg while you're shoveling out a grain bin?" And he's like, "Yeah, I have." I thought I had him, you know. I said, "Well, how'd that work out for you?" He said, really, it was not too bad. I had these awesome bell-bottom pants that were really tight to the kneecap. And so, kind of opened at the bottom, so, all that mayhem stopped at the sock level. Well, that's an example of Benny's positivity. He has not had an experience that he didn't have a positive takeaway from it, no matter how chaotic it was. The guy is always positive. It's remarkable. In his worldly adventures, 132 different countries and all the cultures, the different continents, he maintains the common touch and the authenticity of a small-town America, and yet he still scales really well. Long before Benny was governor, he and I were playing on a basketball team together, and we were in the North Dakota tournament in Grand Forks, North Dakota, and we're playing for a semifinal game. We're up by 11. It's the fourth quarter. Benny takes himself out for a rest, and he sits down next to me, and he says, "Hey, Bo, you still got those soybeans to sell?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Okay, that's great, because in my travels, I got this guy who's really good on Brazilian, South American currency, and he's started to read in that maybe the real is staged for a comeback, and it's going to create a better marketing opportunity for you, and you'll be able to empty those bins, and cover a little more than you thought you would at the end of the season." I'm like, "Cool." But While he's saying that, I see that our lead has come down from 11 to 5, and now there's only 2 minutes left in the game, and he hops up and he slaps me on the knee and he says, well, great conversation, Bo. We're going to need a timeout. And everybody comes over and he sits them down and he says, here's the deal, guys. We got 4 more possessions in this game tops. We're going to start shooting from the left side of the perimeter here, and we're going to shut down their best three-point hitter who's been killing us from the baseline. We do those 3 things, we walk out here with the victory. Are we all good in that? 1, 2, 3, go, go. And they did it. 4 possessions and he wins the game, and I'm just laughing because this guy's the mental gymnasticity in this guy's brain to go from, South American commerce to coaching us through a basketball game is just nuts. And this guy, he's deeply informed, and he's strongly competitive. He maintains this constant situational awareness, and he is nearly unencumbered by sleep. It's been an honor to be here today on this most important day and to share just a small glimpse of where this guy comes from and what's inside this most remarkable, approachable, and gracious leader. And he is an absolute treasure of a friend. And now, welcome please, Jeff Young.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us. What an unbelievable atmosphere here for this very, very important day. It is my pleasure, it is our pleasure as friends of Doug to be here to give him our full support as longtime friends, as colleagues, as mentors, and as a legendary business leader, a visionary business leader. And we're here today to get Doug ready for his next big adventure. Congratulations, Governor Burgum. When I first met Doug, he was in the midst of that famous story at the beginning, selling the farm, mortgaging the farm to invest in technology. And when we look at it now, you build some software, do some great service, win a bunch of national awards, have a successful run on the NASDAQ IPO, sell to Microsoft for $1 billion. No brainer, Doug. What was so hard about that? That was easy. But it was anything but easy. At the time, it was hard. Nobody's giving money to people in North Dakota to build software companies. Banks don't know what software is. And so it was incredibly hard. And it not only was hard to get funding, but it was hard to do the work. Could you get the team? Could you do the work? Lots of business, lots of competitors. And so huge risk. Doug took that risk, never looked back, and he was there every step of the way. He never asked anybody to do anything he wouldn't do, worked incredibly hard. He would spend the day working as a CEO, make a couple sales calls after work, and then show up to pack boxes and ship them out. And so just legendary what he did. He got after it. And not only was he incredibly successful, but incredibly humble. It was fun to watch all the way along. Doug saying thank you. This is a guy who's incredibly successful running the shop, but he's the first one there in the morning, the last one at night to say thank you. The other thing I recognized about Doug early on, at that point, about 130 people on the team, but an incredibly talented team. Early on, he understood that you needed great people across your organization, you needed great leaders, you needed great technologists, and he had created that at that time. Later on, a couple thousand people on some unbelievable buildings here on campus, but he got that from right away. If you think about Doug, after the story at Great Plains, it gets even better. He goes and runs a great Microsoft division for six years. He launches a venture capital company to be local and do the things that he wishes he could have done when he was starting Great Plains. Renovates a bunch of downtown areas, super successful on a number of boards, and it led them to very successful exits. And the other thing, which I can't not talk about because it's probably the thing that makes him the happiest, he still serves on the board of Arthur Companies. 100+ years in business, and he's still on that board along with all the other boards that he's on. In addition to that, he's still got his ranch out west, and he will be the first one to tell you that he's not afraid of any job on the ranch, and he ropes a little bit. And so, has been incredibly successful after Great Plains and Microsoft. And then at that point, Doug didn't really need another job, but he volunteered to be governor. A whole bunch of people told him, we have a bunch of politicians who can be governor. You don't need to be governor. And I think, he was down, he had about a 50-point deficit when he started the run for governor. By the end, he won by over 20 points. And so for all those people who didn't think we needed another governor, we are thrilled that Doug is serving us as governor here in North Dakota. And that brings us to today. You know, why is here Doug today? He doesn't need another job, but he sees an opportunity to serve. Doug has always wanted to lead. He enjoyed leading, but he also serves. He enjoys serving the state of North Dakota, but he thinks he can serve more, and he can. You know, we're in a time of a lot of uncertainty. You know, the economy is not great. Inflation has been terrible for a number of years. It's down a little bit, but it's still a problem. The interest rate shock that is at our system right now, we're just beginning to see how hard that is going to be. The energy thing we have right now, what energy thing? We had great energy. We need great energy again. Doug is an energy expert. And then on top of that, the technology challenges. China and Russia are coming after cyber attacks. AI has got unbelievable opportunities, but also unbelievable challenges. We need a technology person to lead in those situations. So we're going to have a great country, but we need great leadership. And when you think about what's out there, we need somebody who can run a business environment, check. We need somebody who knows and can lead on energy and is an energy expert, check. We need somebody who can run technology and, more importantly, lead great technology teams, check. We've got unbelievable opportunities in front of us, but we've got some hard work to do. We really do. And we need somebody who's not afraid of hard work and is a great leader. We need the right leader. And at this time, that right leader is uniquely qualified. Doug Burgum is uniquely qualified to have all those things, and that is his next great adventure. Now it is my pleasure to bring to the stage one of the top members of Team Burgum, the First Lady, Catherine Burgum. She has done some amazing work representing the state of North Dakota, done some amazing work in the Recovery Reinvented, literally touched thousands of people, and it is my pleasure to bring today Catherine Burgum, First Lady. Thanks.
Jeff Young worked together with Doug at Microsoft a number of years, went on to be the president at Wex Health in Fargo, and now is the CEO at Stack Sports. Now Catherine Helgus Burgum, the First Lady of North Dakota.
Well, good morning. Thank you, Jeff, for that heartfelt introduction. And thank you all for being here for this exciting and historic day. It is such an honor to serve as the First Lady of North Dakota. It's also an honor to stand before you today to introduce my husband, our Governor, Doug Burgum. Doug is a man of integrity, compassion, and courage, who cares deeply about the future of our country. His family is deeply rooted in North Dakota. He comes from the hardy stock of pioneers. His life has been directly influenced by a long lineage of strong, powerful, and intelligent women. His great-grandmother, Linda Slaughter, was one of the state's earliest pioneers. She arrived to North Dakota by steamboat, coming up the Missouri River after the Civil War. She was an author and a correspondent who fought for women's right to vote. Linda was the first woman in Dakota Territory to hold an elected office as superintendent of Burleigh County Schools. She beat out several male candidates at a time when she could not even vote for herself. In 1892, she earned the distinction of becoming the first female in the country to vote for a presidential candidate at a national convention. Her daughter, Doug's grandmother, Jessamine Slaughter,
was the only female in the first ever class of students at North Dakota State University back in 1890, a year after North Dakota became a state. Doug's amazing mom, Catherine, was a widowed mother of 3 when she re-entered the workforce as the dean of the College of Home Economics at NDSU after Doug's father died. Of the 2,000 Great Plains team members, 51% were female, which was unheard of in the software industry when they merged with Microsoft in 2001. And many of them became senior level executives at Microsoft. It's clear that Doug has been influenced and surrounded by strong women his entire life. Which brings me to my next topic, me. After becoming First Lady, I made the decision to go public about my battle with the disease of addiction. Today, I stand before you as a person celebrating over 21 years in long-term recovery. I chose to stop living with the shame and stigma of the disease of addiction, which had affected my life since high school. I made a choice to become a face and voice of recovery. Doug has been a magnificent supporter and partner on this journey. I'm grateful that our work together on Recovery Reinvented has touched many lives in every community in our state and around the world. But there is still so much work to do. Over 30 million families in our country experience the disease of addiction, and many know the tragedy and heartbreak of the incomprehensible 110,000 U.S. overdose deaths in 2022. And fentanyl is still pouring into our country through our open southern border. The sense of community and optimism in many of our towns and main streets in North Dakota is so different than other places in our country right now. Like many of you, I can't remember a period in my lifetime when our country has been more divided. Today, I offer you a message of hope, that there is a better way. Doug cares deeply. He's a values and mission-driven guy, and it shows in everything he does. And now, his mission is to bring out the best of America. And to improve every American life. From the boy who lost his father at a young age to the executive who would bring thousands of jobs to North Dakota, Doug has always shown perseverance and resilience. He is North Dakota's biggest champion. He has never given up on our state or the people that matter most to him. And now, his goal is to improve opportunities for every American. And that's really what Doug's campaign is going to be all about, improving lives and bringing out the best of America. We need to focus desperately on that as a country to stop the division and the fighting. Doug will get it done. Doug has truly carried on the North Dakota pioneer spirit of his family into the 21st century through new ideas and innovation. He is a visionary leader who has dedicated his life to serving the people of North Dakota as an entrepreneur and a governor. He has a proven track record of creating jobs, growing businesses, and transforming government. He has championed bold initiatives of diversify the economy, improve behavioral health care access, and enhance environmental stewardship. He is a partner with the tribal nations with which we share borders in North Dakota, especially in the areas of education, behavioral health care services, and law enforcement. And Doug is a strong champion for the new presidential library in the North Dakota Badlands to honor Theodore Roosevelt. He's been recognized nationally for his innovative and collaborative approach to governing, which has earned him bipartisan support and respect. Doug is not a politician. He's a problem solver who listens to all perspectives and finds common ground. He is a leader who inspires others to dream big and act boldly. He is a patriot who loves this country and wants everyone to make it better for all of us. That's why I'm proud to stand by his side as he runs for President of the United States. I know he has the vision, the experience, and the heart to lead our nation forward. Please join me in welcoming my husband and our governor, the next President of the United States, Doug Burgum.
First Lady Catherine Burgum touching on a number of themes that certainly will play well with primary voters. The southern border and how it's contributed to addiction and the flood of drugs into our country, talking about behavioral health and tribal relations, things that may touch well on the other side of the aisle as well. And now, North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum.
Wow, feels like ESPN Game Day in here. What do you think about that, huh? Well, thank you. Our hearts are full of gratitude for everyone who's made this moment possible, including all those that have gone before us. And all of you that are joining us here today, thank you. Catherine, I'm so grateful for you. Grateful to be on this journey with you. I've witnessed firsthand how your brave and powerful decision to share your personal story of recovery has touched countless lives. And through your groundbreaking work on Recovery Reinvented, you have literally saved lives. Catherine, I love you. Our state loves you. And I know America is going to love North Dakota's amazing First Lady. Together, Catherine and I have so much gratitude for all the Burgum and Helga's family members. We get our siblings, our cousins, second cousins, third cousins, nieces, nephews, even Aunt Joan Tuma is here all the way from California, so we know we're going to get one vote in California. But all those close friends, all of you that are here today, I'm looking back in the risers, and I think that 1/3 of my Arthur class of 16 is standing back there, high school. So thank you, Gwen, Dave, Kevin, everybody that's back there. But thanks to all of you that have encouraged us, you've supported us, and you've believed in us throughout our lives. This is definitely a family decision, and we're grateful. Today, we've got a whole boatload of elected officials here, fellow statewide, state legislators, mayors, tribal chairs, and tribal leaders from our 5 sovereign nations with whom we share geography. All of you that are elected today, you're in the arena, and we're grateful for each of you for your service. Thank you. But especially we want to thank today the people of North Dakota, who we are so honored to serve. You took a chance on us in 2016, and that was another race where everybody said we're starting out as a long shot and a dark horse, so we think it's a good place to be. But I want to thank you all, because re-electing us in that landslide in 2020, our 40-plus point victory margin was the largest in the country of any of the 11 governor races that year. You were the ones that all made that happen. Thank you. Thank you so much. And again, thank you all for being here today that are watching here in the room and those in the overflow areas. But I want to thank you for being here. There's so many we know, friends around the country that are watching online. Today is just the start of showing how much we can achieve when we all work together. I grew up in Arthur, a tiny town of 300 people. Part of the other 300 people that did grow up there too. But our parents were a gift. They taught us not just by their words, but by their actions. Dad, World War II Navy veteran, taught us the importance of service to country and the community. Mom, she taught us the importance of caring deeply, listening thoughtfully, respecting everyone. And from the earliest days, Dad and Mom, not sure why, but they supported my entrepreneurship, my risk-taking, whether it was crazy ideas like launching a newspaper when I was 8 years old in elementary school, or wilderness canoe trips or hitchhiking to Alaska as a teenager. But it was a cold Saturday night in January, and we were ready to head out to play neighboring town Kindred when they pulled me off the bus to tell me that our dad was dying. I was a freshman in high school. That was tough. But North Dakota was the kind of place where your neighbors rally around you. It was also, interestingly, the birthplace of the Good Samaritan Society of America. At that time, we like to kind of brag that Arthur had a population of 400, not 300. We got to that big number because we proudly counted the over 100 residents in the Good Samaritan home. Good Sam in those days, they took everyone in, regardless of age or abilities. And so in a way, our whole town was about taking care of each other, about helping those in need, about neighbor, helping neighbor. Every small town in America is like that, but Arthur especially. If somebody was in need, a neighbor was always there to help out. We see that across the entire state of North Dakota today. If a farmer has a serious health issue, all the neighbors rally to get the crops planted or harvested. And every spring in North Dakota, like this spring in ranch country, neighbors help neighbors with spring roundups and brandings. I'll never forget the way our town lifted up our family and supported us all when Mom had to go back to work after Dad died. Other dads like Joe Peltier and my Uncle Al Burgum, Lester Zimmerman, all made sure I was doing okay. Mom was driving to and from Fargo for work, and every night after basketball or football practice, when Mom was still working late in Fargo, I'd go to Helen Williams' house for a fabulous dinner, homemade rolls, and a wonderful chocolate milkshake. I'll always remember her generosity and kindness. And her daughter, Julie Barner, is here today. Julie, right over here. It shouldn't be a surprise that small town values have guided me my entire life. Small town values are at the core of America. And frankly, big cities could use more ideas and more values from small towns right now. Along with cousins and friends, I worked every summer at our family's grain elevator, including some jobs like shoveling out rotten grain out of the pit. Those jobs should be featured on Discovery Channel's Dirty Jobs, actually. One time we were all so dirty and we smelled so bad from that rotten grain, we went across the main street to go to the Arthur Cafe, and Walt and Ann came out and said, no, we'll serve you out here on the curb. You guys can't come in. I worked on the farm for Jack Hoig, swathing grain every harvest, all through high school and all through college. And to help pay for college, I even worked as a chimney sweep. The minimum wage in North Dakota was $2.30, and I figured out that I could earn $40 an hour sweeping a chimney. I loved working outside, I loved climbing, and I got to wear a top hat and tails when it was 20 below. And of course, this is a time when there was an energy crisis going on. OPEC had quadrupled oil prices, and a lot of people were burning wood in their homes, so the threat of chimney fires is real. A clean chimney prevents those fires, so it was a chance to help people. And for me, the career had a real appeal, because when you're a chimney sweep, you have an opportunity to move up fast and always stay in the black. Thanks for laughing, not groaning, because for my kids, I had to have at least one dad joke in this presentation. But I believed then, and I still believe now, and I believe it deeply, that unlimited opportunity exists everywhere in America. I literally bet the farm to help turn a small startup into a billion-dollar company in North Dakota. People thought I was crazy. A software company in North Dakota? Well, we ignored those who said North Dakota was too small, too cold, and too distant to build a world-class software company. We did it anyway. We built Great Plains Software into a company that served 140,000 businesses in 132 countries. And we did it with team members from more than 220 small towns across North Dakota. At the time we went public, we were one of the top 5 most successful NASDAQ IPOs ever, only in America. 4.5 years later, by the time we joined forces with Microsoft, we had just over 2,000 team members, 1,200 of them based right here in Fargo, 400 team members across the rest of North America, and 400 Great Plains team members based around the globe. It's a tribute to the commitment of our partners and our team members and our investment, and their absolute courage to take a stand against the conventional wisdom that said it just couldn't be done. Some people called us an amazing overnight success story. The truth is, we were an overnight success story 18 years in the making. When you start a software company here, you need to be willing to go against the grain and reimagine what's possible. And that's exactly what we did when we ran for governor in 2016. We shook things up a bit. We cut $1.7 billion in spending our first year in office. We cut red tape and streamlined services. Working with other statewide electeds and the legislature, we balanced the budget every year. We bolstered cybersecurity. We brought life back to our main streets. We made record investments in education, strengthened tribal relations, built infrastructure, unleashed energy production, and diversified the economy. North Dakota is both growing and getting younger, one of the only states that's doing that. And we have the 3rd lowest unemployment in the country and the highest workforce participation in the nation. And again, working with the legislature this past year, we achieved historic pension reform, helped pass term limits, and enacted the biggest tax cut in state history. We know we can do the same for America. Right now, the world, our economy, are both changing rapidly. And how we respond will define our future. Technology is changing every job, every company, and every industry. And this change will become more rapid than ever before. We need new leadership for the changing economy. We need a leader who understands the real work that Americans do every day. Someone who's worked alongside our farmers, our ranchers, and our small business owners. Someone who's held jobs where you shower at the end of the day, not at the beginning. Someone who's got decades of success selling our technology overseas and knows the threats and the risks to our future from foreign state-sponsored competitors stealing and pirating our intellectual property. We need a leader who's experienced firsthand that we win as a country when our innovators and entrepreneurs can soar and when every single person can grow and thrive. To unlock the best of America, we need a leader who's clearly focused on three things: economy, energy, and national security. And that is why today I'm officially announcing I'm running for the President of the United States of America. Thank you. That was so sweet, Mary. Thank you. Godmother to our kids, I should point that out. Anyway, the economy needs to be the absolute top priority. Every small business owner and every family in our country is feeling the corrosive hidden tax on their lives driven by the Biden-induced inflation. Inflation is the worst. It hurts those the most who can afford it the least. But innovation, that's always been the driver of America. Innovation over regulation. Innovation over regulation. We say it every day in North Dakota. Innovation over regulation is how you solve the challenges we face today. Regulation looks backwards. Innovation looks towards the future. The Biden administration is obsessed with creating mountains of federal red tape. These regulations raise costs for every American consumer. They hamper our ability to compete in the world marketplace. They siphon time and investment away from innovative solutions. And the way we retain our nation's position, which is so important in everything we do, our position as the world's largest, most dynamic, and most powerful economy, is through innovation. For well over a century, American innovation, from telecommunications to electric light to flight itself, and the power of American agriculture, think of it, feeding the entire world. America has led the way. Yeah. Yet when I was in high school, we were told two things were absolutely certain about our future. The world was going to run out of food, and the world was going to run out of energy. However, today we live in a world of abundance because of American innovation. Innovation has paved the way for a better life for all Americans. And the potential and the possibility, the coming breakthroughs in software and biotech, energy and healthcare can continue this trend. But due to over-regulation, that brighter future for Americans is now at risk. Let's get back to common sense. Let's eliminate red tape, get inflation under control, cut taxes, reduce the cost of living, and help every American realize their fullest potential. It takes energy to get things done in America. Clean, reliable, low-cost energy brings manufacturing back to the U.S. and reduces our supply chain risks. U.S. energy policy cannot be separated from either our economy or from our national security. Energy policy directly underpins both. And we need to stop buying energy from our enemies and start selling energy to our friends and allies. America produces energy cleaner and safer than anywhere else in the world. If you care about the global environment, you should be fighting to have every drop of energy produced in the United States. And when we're truly energy independent and we're supporting our allies, that's when we stabilize the globe and restore America as a leader of the free world. Putin only dared to invade Ukraine because our allies in Western Europe were all dependent on Russian energy. We need to recognize the real threats to America and strengthen our national security. Growing up in a small town, you learn quickly the enemy isn't each other. Our enemies aren't our neighbors down the street. Our enemies are countries that want to see our way of life destroyed. In a country built on neighbors helping neighbors, we become a country of neighbors fighting neighbors. We should all be fighting to unite the country against our common enemies like China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, and the drug cartels. And we all know Joe Biden isn't getting the job done and too often is making things worse. Gas prices are too high, and the Biden administration enacts policies that make us more dependent on foreign oil. That makes no sense. American families are struggling under the weight of record inflation, and the response from Democrats? Increase the size of the IRS to target Americans. That makes no sense. An out-of-control border that is ignored by the White House while killer drugs like fentanyl infiltrate our communities, and 110,000 individual tragedies occur through overdoses. Think of that. 110,000 families in 2022 lost a son, a daughter, a mother, a father, a sister, or a brother, and we're doing nothing about the border. That makes no sense. And we're facing a very real threat from China. And Joe Biden's Green New Deal policies, they're only going to shift our dependence from OPEC to Sinopec. That makes no sense. We could go on for hours, but we don't need to. Where we come from, when something isn't working, you stop and you try something new. That's common sense. Joe Biden has got to go. If you want to ensure that Joe Biden is a one-term president, I hope you're going to join our campaign by visiting DougBurgum.com. And if you believe that the economy, energy, and national security are critical to our nation's future, remember, that's why I'm running for president. And if you want more small-town common sense in Washington and our big cities, we'll make that happen. And if you think that we need a governor and business leader who understands this changing economy, I want to earn your vote. Because this campaign, this election, is all about what it takes to bring out the best of America and improve every American life. After my dad died, I saw firsthand what it means to be the best of America when the people of Arthur, North Dakota lifted up our family. When we built Great Plains Software with team members from small towns across the nation, just like Arthur, it showed the best of America. The best of America exists. It exists in the smallest towns and in the biggest cities. The best of America is there, on our farms, on our factory floors, and in tiny startups with big dreams. Every day, students see the best of America when they're inspired by their teachers. We see it in our brave military, our dedicated police, and our selfless first responders. It's there through the sleepless nights of new mothers and fathers loving their newborns, and also in the loving caregivers who are taking care of those that are in the twilight of their life. When we take the time to look, we can see that we are surrounded by the best of America. Working together, we will unlock the best of America in all of us. Please join us on this mission. With your support, we will improve every American life. Thank you. God bless you. God bless America.
North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum making it official. He is running for president in 2024, and a primary process starts in early 2023. A crowd of about 750 to 800 is what the estimates were for the crowd downtown Sanctuary Event Center, with another 50 to 75 potentially in some overflow areas outside the building as well. Doug Burgum on stage as the crowd continues to cheer and salute him. His wife, Catherine, now joining him on the stage as well as they hold hands and wave to the crowd at Sanctuary Event Center. A speech that went about half an hour or so from Doug, maybe a little less than that. Altogether, the entire program lasted about an hour or so. A lot to talk about with what we heard. He covered a number of bases, including a number of familiar places where you know he's gone before and where you thought he might go again. Lots of mom and apple pie in this announcement today. It was an invitation-only crowd. You had to have been invited to be able to be in the building today. And you heard Doug Burgum hit a number of themes on a regular basis. None of this by hunch. There is no winging it with Doug Burgum. He is enormously data-driven. And everything you heard today, every single word, every single theme or concept was carefully planned and strategized ahead of time by Team Burgum. Country music before the event. The event began with friends from home giving stories about Doug, including a nickname that I don't think I had heard before, and maybe most of us haven't. His high school nickname was Benny, apparently. There were stories about high school football and cattle ranching, and people who said in later years, Doug Burgum became a business guy who never sleeps. Again, I think absolutely on purpose and intentional, because you may remember a former president of the United States who happens to be very popular among Republicans, also a business guy who never sleeps. So I don't think that was an accident at all or incidental. There were multiple allusions to a 50-point deficit as he began his run for governor. Definitely a calculated shot of those who say the margin right now, with Donald Trump polling about 50% or a little better than that in the Republican primary battle, is too great. Jeff Young, a former colleague of his, talked about something that I think needs to get a lot of attention. And I thought Doug might capitalize on it even a little bit more in his comments today. But Jeff's comment was, we need a technology guy for today's challenges with cyber warfare and AI. And I thought that was really appropriate based on where we're at in our country. Cyber warfare is a big concern in the business community and the national security community. AI, you hear a news story every day about how artificial intelligence could make jobs obsolete and create all kinds of havoc within our society. There was a great address by Catherine Burgum, and she paid tribute to the strong and powerful women in Doug's life that shaped who he is today. And this, I think, is a key storyline for Republicans. Can Team Red win suburban women who have leaned more often to Democrat candidates recently? And she also talked about her personal experiences with addiction and her bravery and her willingness to be as upfront as she has about this. I think whether it's intentional or something that just has happened along the way turns into a very important tool for the Burgum campaign, because so many of our families across the country are dealing with addiction and dependence. And she also did a very good job of tying that into the southern border and how that's contributed to drugs coming across the border. She talked about bringing people together, that we need to stop fighting, touched on behavioral health and tribal relations. And then Doug took the stage himself for 20 to 25 minutes or so and started with an ode and a tribute to his wife, Catherine, and the addiction storyline, again, capitalizing whether it was intentional or just a heartfelt thank you to a brave woman, but positioned himself as someone who has a unique understanding of this issue, and I think that's very important in this campaign. From the beginning, a relaxed smile and good humor that worked. Sometimes humor doesn't work. I thought it worked well for him today. He talked about one relative who lives in Florida, so at least he'll have one vote in California. Some good, solid laughter moments. And some have asked, does Doug Burgum have such an intelligent, studied, focused personality that he loses that affable connection with people? Well, today he didn't. I thought he looked as relaxed as I have seen him before. And with that, I'm going to see if Scott Hennon is available down at the Sanctuary Event Center to jump on with me and comment on what we heard here. Scott, can you hear me?
I can, yes.
I thought Doug was as relaxed and affable and easygoing and comfortable in front of people as I have seen him so far. You?
I thought so too. Rich Carlgard is still here. We watched this together. What's your takeaway, Rich?
I think I had sky-high expectations, and I think Doug met and exceeded them. I'm so excited about this.
Yeah, he really. Even the staging of this thing is. I compare it to Chris Christie, who announced yesterday or the day before, and it's considerably better. I mean, everything was thought of, and this was a good look for national TV.
If he can get airtime, if he can have the chance, if he can just let people see what he's all about, he's going to surprise people. He's going to surprise people the way Jimmy Carter did in '76, Bill Clinton in '92. Every generation, maybe every 2 generations, the time is right for an outside-of-the-box candidate. Doug is that candidate. He's the perfect candidate for our time.
Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
Travel safely. Thanks. You bet. Thanks, Rich. Appreciate it very much. Yeah, I'm just, want to express, Steve, that the stagecraft of this was really, really done well. Obviously built for a national TV audience. But I think they did about everything perfectly in that regard. They've obviously got some great campaign team members that are helping them on what exactly they need to do on the national stage to put on an event that'll garner some national coverage. As far as the message itself, I would agree with you. The economy, energy, foreign policy, hit on all of those. I just saw a note from one of our listeners saying, no mention of moral issues. Our nation is not in a financial crisis, it's in a moral crisis. Everything else comes from that. I think especially in Iowa, he will have to, hone his chops a little bit on the values issues, on the culture, on what's going on. People want to know. The governor's not fond of weighing in on those topics, but a state like Iowa that plays a big role in who is the next president of the United States, or for sure who is the Republican nominee, they'll want to hear that.
Scott, stand by. I want to come back to you in just a moment, but first we're going to take a break along our network stations here who are with us for this announcement today. There's much yet to talk about. I want to get Scott's thoughts in particular on the economy and how Doug Burgum is positioning himself as some of the campaign signs that you may, if you were listening, you may not have heard. If you're watching the video stream, you did. But I saw this theme of a new leader for a changing economy as being a very prominent message in today's address by Doug Burgum. So when we come back, I'm going to ask Scott about that. Former North Dakota Governor Ed Schaefer is also on hand, and he'll be joining us here for his comments and his reaction as well as we continue. You're listening to special live coverage of Doug Burgum's announcement. He is running for president of the United States. That when we come back on WZFG, AM 1100 The Flag, and FM 92.3 on AM 1090 KTGO and FM 92.7 and WDAY AM 970 and FM 93.1. We'll be back with more right after this.
Welcome to summer at the Red River Regional Marksmanship Center, where you can shoot in climate-controlled comforts. The rifle range is set at a comfortable 70 degrees year-round, and the pistol range is a cool place to be as well. So don't let the heat get to you. The range is the place for training classes and improving your shooting skills over the summer. When it's too hot to be outdoors, go to the range. Be sure to check the website for training classes, summer hours, and holiday closings. See you at the range.
Dave Osted from Osted's Golf here, helping you out with the perfect Father's Day gift. And I have some help today. My son Ryan and grandson Thomas. What do you recommend, boys?
How about deals on Titleist, TaylorMade, and Strixon golf balls?
Callaway Maverick drivers, under $250. Now that's a good deal.
Plus, great values on golf shoes and apparel.
Don't forget, dads love gift cards, Grandpa.
Thanks, Thomas. Shop Osted's this Father's Day.
We'd love to see you soon.
So I was thinking, it's Friday night date night.
Yeah, I know. 3 Lines Pub.
Yes, the date night special. 2 meals and 2 glasses of wine for $30. Or I can get a whole bottle for $35, and you can get a variety of beer on tap.
You know, we can swing by during the week. Monday, Wednesday, and Thursdays are takeover trivia nights.
With great prizes.
Blackout Bingo's the last Tuesday of the month. Discounts for first responders, military, and seniors every day.
Friends, food, and fun at 3 Lions Pub on 13th Avenue in West Fargo.
Hey, Ronnie, grilling season finally here this weekend. I'm going to sit on my deck with a cold beer and watch Alex grill some meat.
Speaking of meat, Jay, our great friends from Meats by John and Wayne will be giving away a meat bundle this Thursday on your show. All you have to do is listen for the call-in song. And be the 9th caller.
Ronnie, there's a reason those guys have been voted best butcher shop in the Red River Valley since 2016. Meats by John and Wayne. All your meat needs.
It's a family summer bash, Wednesday, June 14th at Olivet Lutheran Church in Fargo. The events start at 5 with dinner served by our youth featuring pulled pork sandwiches and all the sides. We'll worship at 6 with our Celebrate Band, followed by a kids' color run, service projects, lawn games, and a concert by the band Island Time. If you've never been to Olivet Lutheran Church and are looking for a church home, this is a great way to learn about us. Bring your family and friends for our summer bash, Wednesday, June 14th at Olivet Lutheran Church on the corner of 13th Avenue and South University Drive, Fargo.
Music Fest happens in Hankinson. June 8th through the 10th, kickoff party with Larry Richeve, Thursday at 7 p.m., followed by 2 full days of continuous music and dancing on Friday and Saturday from noon to 10 p.m. Join the fun with Leon Olson, Matt Hodek's Dakota Dutchman, Kevin Klimak and the Sideliners, and the Squires Band. Lincoln State Bank invites you to discover Hankinson while at the 8th Annual Music Fest. Lincoln State Bank, banking on a first-name basis. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender, Hankinson. It happens here.
Welcome back to our continuing live coverage of Doug Burgum's announcement. He is running for president in 2024. The campaign in the primary begins right away, and he will need to be on the campaign trail very quickly. These are many of the questions we would love to ask. Hopefully we will get a chance to do that coming up as the days go on here. Steve Hallstrom hosting the coverage today from the studios here in South Fargo. Scott Hennon and Ty Schonert are downtown at the Sanctuary Events Center, and we are efforting a couple of conversations here as we move through the rest of our program, leading you up until the top of the hour here. If you have a comment on what you heard today, something that an observation you made, something that you would like people to think about, we'd love to hear from you. Studio at WDAYRadioNow.com. Studio at WDAYRadioNow.com will get you to us. Emailer Kenny says, Doug needs to bring the energy. He, along with Mike Pence, have no excitement in their delivery. And Doug will also have to do his best to separate himself from Bill Gates. If Trump is out of the race, then Doug and DeSantis will be the 2 front runners. He will have D.C. and the establishment behind him. Thanks, Kenny, for your comments there. I'm going to send it back down to the Sanctuary Event Center. Scott Hennon joining us, and also joining us in studio now, Jay Thomas, host of the Jay Thomas Show on WDAY Radio. One of the reasons I thought Jay's perspective would be helpful here is that Jay looks at life, and his show is all about looking at life through the everyman's perspective.
Yep.
And how does this announcement today resonate with rural North Dakota, with the neighborhoods across the city of Fargo and West Fargo as well? So, Jay, thanks for stopping in. I'll throw this question to both of you, Scott and Jay. I thought there was an intentional effort today to have a lot of conversation about small town values, growing up on the farm, neighbors and country cooking. That might be the nook here versus the primary contenders, because you don't have anybody else who's going to try to play in that space among the 10 people that are now in the mix, as far as I can tell.
He is reaching out to the hardworking blue-collar people of America, from your farmers to your ranchers to your, convenience store workers. With the story that he has, he can resonate with a lot of those people. I mean, he started in Arthur, North Dakota, like he said, bet the farm on everything, and look what he did. I do agree with a lot of people, and it's come up on my show quite often. They're going to come at him with Bill Gates, and I think Doug's a smart enough person to be able to fight back on that, and he's also a guy that's not going to get caught up in the name calling and down in the trenches. I think he's going to focus on, this is what I've done, this is what I can do.
I think he has enough conservative issues on his side that he can play that game fairly well and dance that dance when he needs to. Governor Ed Schaefer, former Governor Ed Schaefer, was one of the many dignitaries that were on hand at the event today, and he's standing by with Scott Hennon.
He is. Ed, what'd you think? You were up close to the event and amidst the VIPs. Describe the event.
Well, there's a lot of energy in the room, and it's exciting. People from North Dakota are saying, here's one of ours that could be the president of the United States. It's exciting. People are positive, happy, joyous here, and listening to Doug, staring at Doug, just like he's our guy. It was pretty fun.
Talk a little bit about what you make of the. I'm going to turn the crowd noise down here a little bit because the music is blaring through on us here. Talk a little bit about what you thought of the message.
Well, I think the message, which obviously will be honed as he goes along, but the message of energy independence, working on the economy, bringing technology into positive aspects of government and people's lives, are things that America sorely needs today. So I think his message was right on for what people want, or people, maybe they don't even know they want it, but it's right for America today, where our country's going. And I think Doug's vision and his experiences in North Dakota have propelled him to this place that says, I can do this for the United States, and it would be a good thing.
You've known him for a long time before his run for governor. How do you expect him to approach this race? Is he going to do it like he's back as CEO of Great Plains, or number 2 or 3 at Microsoft?
Well, what Doug will do is, first of all, he will research, and I said the other day, the White House is going to have a lot more notebooks because he fills up, he writes notes and notes and notes. But, I expect him to do just like he's done. I mean, he goes out there, he sees what the problems are, he tries to solve the problems, and he puts in manner or encourages the team or whatever, the people, to get behind it and get it done. And I think so much today politicians talk. They say, they say this, they fight about it, they're angry. And to have that kind of refreshing voice out there saying, let's get together, let's make something happen, let's get it done, I think people are going to listen.
Obviously, it's a long shot to be the Republican nominee in this race. He knows that as well as anybody. This is a real tough battle, no question about it. People ask, what's his end game? If not the Republican nominee, what do you think he's in this race for?
I think he's in this race to become the president. I don't think he has an alternative end game or a plan B. Because there isn't one, he's running for president. I think he believes he can be elected president, and he's not in there for some other, to write a book or to have some other job. I mean, this is what he's focused on. This is what he's trying to get done.
I remember when people were over the years trying to recruit you to run for Senate, and you said it's not my flavor. I got to be an executive. I got to be behind. And obviously, you were as George Bush's Secretary of Agriculture. Is Doug the same way, you think, as far as any other political aspirations on the House or Senate?
I don't know that. I think he's the same way. He came out of the business community. Doug is a focused leader in business operations and budgeting and management administration. Those kinds of things, our executive branch. And I think he's translated that into the governor's office. But I don't see him in the Senate. I don't see him in the House. What other political jobs are there? Ambassador, it's like, but I think he's an operator, and that's where he would be best served.
This will be great for North Dakota, won't it?
Well, it's always great for North Dakota.
We love that. More people in Medora.
Yeah, we love that. We love beautiful scenery in that ad. It was about, that could have been a North Dakota tourism spot, which is going to be wonderful as he advances that on the national stage.
Yeah, it sure could. Thanks, Ed.
You bet. Thanks.
Great to see you.
Hey, Scott, before you let Ed go, could you ask him this question? Rich Karlgaard talked a minute ago about if Doug can get some exposure, if he can get on that national quote-unquote stage somehow, he's got a shot. How does he do that?
Steve is wanting to ask you, obviously the need is to get more known and get on the national stage. How does he accomplish that?
Well, it's going to take a lot of money and a lot of resources. He goes out now, he's got to do Iowa, He's got to do New Hampshire, South Carolina, and he's run these bio ads or whatever. People need to get to know him, and it's going to be hard. It's going to take a ton of money. It cost $25 million for him to stand here today and say I'm running for president. All right, now it goes up from there. So he's going to spend $100 million in ads, in having people on the street, in organizations in every county, in every state. You have to go out there. He's working out in California right now, trying to get on the ballot out there. It's a tough job, but it's retail politics. It's door knocking, and here's who I am.
It's the game, and he's in the game.
That's right.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, you bet. Ed Schaefer, former governor, former secretary of agriculture, our guest from the Sanctuary Events Center. And, another hurdle when you talk about getting known, Steve, is getting on the debate stage. And that's not exactly easy. That requires, a 1% showing in the polls, but probably a harder lift is 40,000 donors. Doug Burgum doesn't need donors. He's self-funding this campaign without question, but he does need donors, not from a monetary standpoint. If they give $1, it counts. So he needs 40,000 donors to get on that stage, and you're not on that stage, you're done. You're not running for president. But Ed's right. Iowa and New Hampshire are first, and the debates will come after that. So it's retail politics in those two places, getting yourself known, press in the flesh. He did that here today, and Doug has not necessarily been the kind of press the flesh kind of governor. He'll obviously shake a hand or two, but I don't consider him someone that if you give a speech in a room with 200 people for the Farm Bureau that you walk and shake every hand. You know what I mean? And Schaefer used to do that, and then he'd go back to the kitchen too and shake some more hands. But Doug will have to do a lot of that in New Hampshire and Iowa because they expect it. They want you to press the flesh, and that's how you get on the radar there.
Yeah, no question about it. I thought today's speech, Jay, was the kind of speech, though, that could mobilize 10, 20, 30, 40,000 North Dakotans to say, yeah, we got a lot to be proud of here. I'll give $10 to the Burgum campaign.
I don't think the 40,000 in donations is going to be a problem at all. It's going to be getting that national stage attention. How do you do that coming from flyover country? Doug is, he's got to resonate with the people, come across as, hey, look, I'm not a politician. I'm just a guy. Even though I'm the governor, I'm just a guy that has the experience. I have the confidence to get the job done. And here's my message. And here's what I'm going to do. Stay focused on the economy. That's the big thing. Energy. And just let people know what your plan is, how to fix the problems that we are having. We have big problems right now. That's the key. Money for him, no problem. Did I hear former Governor Schaefer say $25 million basically for today?
Yeah, he told me that something. He told me that earlier too in another interview. And what he's saying is, it didn't cost him $25 million to throw this party today.
No.
But in order to stand up and say I'm going to do it, you have to have $25 million in the bank because you've got to do advertising in all these states. But you also have to have the campaigns on the ground. You've got to have the infrastructure, the boots on the ground, the people that can actually do the work there. And that just to get you through those first three states. And I think later in the interview he said with Scott, it's going to cost him $100 million.
Oh, yeah, $100 million, I think that's going low. But again, that's not the issue. The issue for Doug is going to be getting on a stage. And the one thing I did catch when I was watching it, and I know he's new to this type of politics. I'm in my office watching
Steve
Doug.
In his ear that I have another guest.
Scott, we can hear you, and we understand that you do. So hang on just a second. We'll get right to you.
I'm telling him, Doug, you got to loosen up. You got to loosen up. It's again, I know he's new to this. But boy, that really resonates with people when they see somebody that just seems real stiff and tight. Just be yourself, man. Just be yourself.
And Scott and I have seen Doug from the very beginning, and we both commented that he looked a lot more loose and a lot lighter today than we have seen him before. But certainly there's ways to go. He is an intellect. He is a smart, driven, focused person. He is not the gregarious personality by nature, although today you saw him, I think, as good as we've seen him before. Scott, let's send it back to you.
All right, we're here. Greg Tavine is here. Greg, of course, is someone that's interacted with Doug a lot over the years from Emerging Prairie, and just want to get his assessment on the day. He was one of the guys standing right behind the governor today, and was in that shot nationally. I think you've been on CNN, Fox, MSNBC. You're kind of famous now. You know that.
Hey, just an exciting day for the country to get to learn a little bit about North Dakota.
Yeah, it is great for North Dakota. Everybody says that. Just had that conversation with Ed and others as well. Talk a little bit about what you've seen of Doug Burgum. You're obviously in the entrepreneur ecosystem and the great connector of so many young entrepreneurs with Emerging Prairie, but also have been downtown. What do you want people to know about Doug?
You know, I met Doug. He pulled me aside in college when I was doing my first startup, and he just said, "How can I help?" I got to know his kids through Fill the Dome. Doug was one of the biggest cheerleaders of this youth-led food drive. And ever since then, I've seen a guy that values collaboration, that's open to ideas, and is willing to work his butt off. I'm just really grateful he and Catherine are willing to put the time in and to take the risk, and for being courageous leaders that have an idea to maybe make our country just a little bit better.
Long shot or not, he's in it to win it, isn't he?
You know, people have asked me, oh, what this or that. I'm like, Doug Burgum plays big in the world. And when those group got together and said, we want to do a world-class software company in North Dakota, they got it done. He was the board chair of Atlassian when it IPO'd at $7 billion. This guy plays big.
You know, Rich Colgard wrote an interesting story. We talked to Rich earlier in the program in Forbes magazine talking about some of those investments that are, I guess, not as well known here. Everybody knows about Microsoft and acquiring Great Plains, but there's been a lot of financial success and entrepreneurial success since then, hasn't there?
Yeah, I think, I worked for him when he was board chair of Success Factors when it sold for $3.4 billion. This is a guy that, when we think about athletics, you think about the lineage of all these coaches that come from Alabama or North Dakota State. Look at the leadership of the people that have worked with Doug. They're doing world-class things. Doug is somebody that brings out the best in a lot of people.
That's for sure. Is he the Republican nominee?
You know, that's for the American people to decide. My biggest hope is people will take the time to get to know him and Catherine, learn about him, study him. I hope they just give it a try and explore, and they get to decide.
And get to know North Dakota, right?
Hey, you know, I love this state. I love this community. I love the possibility of what's happening and what we can do better.
Thanks, Greg.
Hey, thanks for all you do.
Good to see you, Greg Tavine. Steve, back to you.
Yeah, Scott, hang on. As we've got about 3 minutes left here in our program today, I want to get your and Jay's opinion on something. Let's do the $100 game here. You've got $100 to bet on the candidates in the Republican primary. You can divide it up as much or as little as you want. Of the candidates that we know, I think there's 10 altogether. I won't go through them. You guys know. How much are you betting on who? Jay, I'll start with you.
Oh, why are you doing this to me? There's three I would bet on, and that's Trump, DeSantis, and believe it or not, I'm going to put Burgum in that three. Now I'm not saying that because he's our governor. I honestly, when this whole thing came out, thought, yeah, I think Burgum's got a better chance than we are crediting him with. It's going to be interesting.
How much of the 100 did you give him, Jay?
I would give at this point. I'd give Burgum $25 out of that 100. I'd give 25 to DeSantis, and at this point, 50 to Trump.
Okay, so 50 Trump, 25 each for DeSantis and Burgum.
Yeah.
Scott, how about you?
I'm going to agree with Jay on the Trump number of 50. I'd put DeSantis at 25. But I think you've got a lot of seasoned folks who have been out there before, whether it be a Nikki Haley or Chris Christie, who drives me bananas. But Mike Pence. I'd put the rest of them in that probably 15, and Doug at 10.
I think their messages are just people have heard their messages before. They're not interested. I don't think Pence has a snowball's chance. I don't think Haley does. I don't think the others do. Doug's a fresh message. Trump's got his people. DeSantis has his. Those are something's telling me that Burgum's got a bigger play in this than we're giving him credit for.
Jay, I'm with you. Do not underestimate Doug Burgum.
Nope.
He is extremely competitive. He is very well financed, and he is driven like few people are. I'm going to go 60 Trump, 30 DeSantis, and 10 on Burgum.
Wow.
Okay. Call me a homer. I don't care.
Let's
but I like
ask you 3 months from now.
Yeah, well, that could be.
Yeah.
I personally,
Yeah,
I'm more of a DeSantis fan than a Trump fan, but Trump has an undying loyalty from people that feel like he was raked over last time around, and I don't think they're going to leave him, and he's got such a big lead. I don't see anybody overtaking him. Scotty, what did you want to say?
I was just going to say that I probably could have put Trump higher because I do think it's Trump's to lose, and who knows what comes in the way of legal stuff or whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. The more that happens, the more people dig in for Trump.
That's true. But if there's an indictment, then you'd get into some sticky wickets.
Yep,
but,
for sure.
He's the guy. No question.
He
His
is
to
the guy.
lose at this point. There's no doubt about that. And DeSantis is a close second. The rest are in a smaller pool there.
But there's another guy in today, and his name is Doug Burgum, and it's going to be a fascinating thing to watch, and this is going to be great for North Dakota. All right, this is WZFG, WDAY, and KTGO. Thanks for being with us.
Weather and news fast. WDAY Radio, AM 970 and FM 93.1. WDAY, Fargo, Moorhead, West Fargo.